Well, my mom was very artistic and could design and make anything, and my dad was very practical. I grew up with a huge love of horses and quickly learned that there was this great material called leather that you could do so much with. Suzie Fletcher, the skilled leather expert from the repair shop, has been through a number of tragedies in her life that have shaped it in ways other than her dyslexia, which made her early years difficult. Susie lost a loved one in a tragic accident. People who watched the show could see how passionate and active Susie was, but who would have thought that this beautiful woman had been a victim of domestic violence? As unbelievable as it sounds, Susie suffered a lot of abuse from her late husband, James Allen Baker, whom she affectionately called Rob. Susie's marriage to her late husband began on a hopeful note. She met Rob soon after moving to the United States, and their friendship quickly turned into a romantic relationship that led to their marriage. Down the aisle. They were married for 15 years. But the romantic part of the relationship didn't last long because her once loved husband started to abuse her. The early days of their marriage, which may have looked happy on the outside, soon showed signs of trouble. Susie remembered events that were emotionally and psychologically hurtful. One of the most upsetting times was when Rob, Susie's husband, started hanging pictures of other women around the house without her permission. This was mean and meant to make her feel less important, while also trying to control her by attacking her sense of self-worth. After all the disrespect her husband showed her, Susie probably would have left the marriage. But she stayed hoping things would get better. Instead, things got worse and worse, leading to fights that mostly left her with bruises, according to Susie. She remembers an argument with Rob in which Rob's anger erupted in a way that put her life in danger. Susie stormed off, slamming the door behind her and hitting him in the process. She knew she was in trouble and ran to the hallway while he chased her. Unfortunately, she ran in the wrong direction and ended up cornered by Rob, who had a history as a competitive wrestler, used his strength against Suzie. He grabbed her by the throat, lifted her off the ground, and choked her, leaving her completely helpless. At that moment, Susie really feared for her life. This was just one of many incidents she talked about, as it was clear she had been emotionally abused and physically abused during her stay in the. In spite of her pain, Susie stayed with Rob until his sudden death from pancreatic cancer in 2013. The diagnosis shocked them both because Rob's illness had been hidden until it was too late. Hearing Susie talk about her marriage would make anyone think Rob was a bad partner, but Susie was quick to clear the air by saying she thought their marriage didn't work out because both of them had flaws and she knew Rob was damaged and suffering from insecurities, which is why he treated her that way. As I got to know him better, I realized he had been through a lot of trauma, which leads to unhealthy ways of coping, and he was drinking to dull the pain. She thought that her late husband was too damaged by the bad influences in his life, especially the place where he grew up, and that she stayed with him because she wanted to give him hope instead of leaving him after he died. Susie took time to deal with the trauma she had been through. She remembered the loving times they had spent together. She didn't hide the bad parts of their marriage. Her memoir, The Sun Over the Mountains, A Story of Hope, Healing, and Restoration, is a very personal account of her journey through love abuse and healing. By telling her story, Susie gives hope to people who may be going through similar things, showing them that it is possible to rebuild and restore oneself after a bad experience. Enduring unbearable hardship, as if dealing with the death of her husband wasn't enough. When Suzie was younger, before she married Rob, she struggled with feelings of not being good enough because of her problems in school. She had dyslexia, a learning disorder that affects reading, writing, and spelling, which made her feel misunderstood and undervalued. In an interview, Susie talked about how hard her early years were because she had a learning disability. As a child, she often didn't think she was very smart because she had trouble keeping up with traditional school methods. At a time when dyslexia wasn't widely known or understood, Susie's problems were often blamed on her lack of effort or intelligence, which made her feel even worse. Being alone and having doubts about herself made school hard for her, both academically and emotionally. But Susie's creative skills helped her deal with these problems. From a young age, she realized she was good at working with her hands. She loved doing things that let her use her creativity and passion, which were skills she hadn't learned in school. Susie's creative pursuits became her saving grace, letting her focus on what she could do instead of what she struggled with. In a memoir, she wrote that one of the most important things that helped her get through her tough school years was her deep love for horses. Susie grew up in Oxford, England, in a family that was deeply passionate about horses. Because her family had horses, she was often exposed to equestrian life and the equipment that came with it, such as saddles and bridles. This exposure sparked her interest in leather work and the artistry that went into making and taking care of these useful items. Her parents' support and the rural life they lived further sparked her interest in traditional crafts. Her love for horses gave her a sense of purpose and direction that school couldn't give her. She found that she had a deep connection with animals, and this bond helped her through tough times, deal with the emotional problems she had because of her disability. Determined to make her passion a career, Susie decided to train at Cordways College in London, where she improved her leather work skills. She later moved to the United States and ran a successful business for several years selling saddles and other leather goods. However, Suzie had always had trouble with her schoolwork. She became very good at making saddles, which let her creative skills and attention to detail really shine. But Susie's problems didn't end there. Even as an adult, she still had to deal with dyslexia in different areas of her life. But she was determined to continue moving forward by focusing on her strengths instead of her weaknesses. She is known for being quietly strong and has talked a lot about her family and how her parents' upbringing affected her own life. One of the most important parts of her story is about her mother's battle with postpartum depression, a condition that affects many women around the world but was even less understood and more shamed during her mother's time. Postpartum depression, also known as postnatal depression, is a condition that many women experience after giving birth. It can make them feel sad, tired, and emotionally numb. Today, it's seen as a serious mental illness that needs medical help. Unfortunately, the treatment available back then was harsh and inadequate, leaving many women, including Susie's mother, to suffer a lot emotionally. Illness in the family shaped a lot of Susie's early life and gave her a strong sense of empathy and resilience that has stayed with her throughout her journey. In interviews, Susie often talked about how much she loved and admired her mother, who, despite her problems, was able to give her and her siblings a loving and caring home. Susie was deeply affected by her mother's ability to raise her children while suffering from postpartum depression. She knew how hard it must have been for her mother to deal with the demands of parenting while also fighting an illness that few people even knew existed. While Susie's parents were going through a hard time, her father, a hydrologist, was also very helpful in keeping the family together and things running smoothly. Even though her parents didn't have the resources or understanding that many families do today, they stayed committed to giving their children a stable and loving home. Susie treasures this part of her childhood, knowing that her parents did the best they could during a time when there wasn't much help available. After helping her mom through her worst time and grieving her late husband, Susie found herself at a crossroads. A new direction in her life, a way to boost her confidence, heal her emotional wounds, find joy again, and find meaning in her work. Joining the repair shop was an important part of this journey. The show not only gave her a chance to use her leather and saddle making skills in a meaningful way, but it also gave her a chance to meet new people. A community that helped Suzie rebuild her low self-esteem. Suzie's journey to the repair shop began with her brother Steve Fletcher, who was already a well-liked and respected member of the show's staff. Steve, a horologist who specializes in clock and watch repair, had been on the show since the beginning, and his role on the show gave him a unique view of the potential of the business. There were personal and professional benefits for Suzie and the environment. He had seen how the show, which was about restoring old crafts and hearing the emotional stories behind the items, brought in and created a caring and supportive community for both cast members and participants, so he knew it was the perfect place for his sister to heal. The show started on BBC Two in March 2017 and then moved to BBC One in March 2020. It follows a group of skilled craftsmen and women who bring old and valuable items back to life. The team is led by furniture restorer and host Jay Blades and includes experts like Suzie as a metal worker, Dominic China as a carpenter, Will Kirk as a cabinet specialist, Stephen Fletcher as a clock restorer, and the show's format involves clients bringing in their treasured but broken items, which are then carefully fixed by the expert team. The emotional connections people have with these items, which are often passed down from generation to generation, make for heartwarming and sometimes tear-jerking TV. The show became known for its gentle feel-good stories. As a result, the repair shop has been well received by viewers who like how it focuses on heritage and skilled restoration work. Fans have called it a soothing and uplifting viewing experience. The show's popularity has led to multiple seasons, special episodes, and even TV versions in Australia, the Netherlands, and Belgium. Also received critical acclaim, receiving nominations and awards. When Suzie returned to the UK in 2017, she needed something that would not only let her continue her craft but also give her a sense of purpose and community, something that was missing from her life after a time of grief and loss. Steve saw this as the perfect chance for Suzie to use her skills in a meaningful way by joining the repair shop, so she became a guest star on the show, thinking that her experience would help her do well in the setting. Fostered in co-ed by her brother's Suzie management reached out to the show's producers and told them about her impressive background. She talked about her decades of experience working with leather and making saddles. Her deep knowledge of the craft and her love for carefully restoring things impressed the producers, who saw not only a skill but also an emotional depth she could bring to the show. Starting with the second season, Suzie officially joined the repair shop. Since then, she's become a beloved cast member known for her careful work and caring approach to restoring Suzie items. Her skills filled a need on the team as she became the go-to expert for restoring precious leather items like old saddles and family heirlooms for Suzie working. In the repair shop wasn't just a job, it was a key part of her healing process. Her brother was right after all. The sense of community she found on the show was essential to her journey of regaining her confidence. The show also gave her a chance to connect with the people who brought them in. Suzie items, many of whom had their own emotional stories to tell. This shared empathy strengthened Suzie's connection to her work, and with her years of experience, she helped make her role on the show even more therapeutic. It's not surprising that she's been a main character on the show. It's almost impossible not to love her. In many ways, Suzie's struggles have shaped her. In her personal life and at work at the repair shop, Suzie is known for being caring and able to connect with people on a deep emotional level. This is because she understands pain, which has helped her not only be good at her craft but also show compassion and kindness to those in need. This led her to help with a number of charitable events through the repair shop, one of the most important ones being. As an example, Susie and her team restored a beloved teddy bear that had a lot of emotional value for its owner as part of their work with children in need in 2021. In 2022, they continued their work with the organization by restoring a beautifully carved wooden chair, which showed that they were still committed to using their skills for good causes. In 2022, Susie and her team also took part in a special comic relief parody with comedy legends. The sketch imitates the format of the show in a fun way, adding a sense of entertainment to the charity event while still honoring the craft and spirit of the repair shop. This doll has the power to take award-winning actress Dame Judy back to the past. Are you ready? Yes, the show is still airing, and Suzie Fletcher is still very active on it. She recently shared updates on her current projects, showing that she has been very busy filming new episodes of The Repair Shop. In a recent interview, she talked about her time on the show and said she was grateful, calling it lovely. The work feels like the foundation of her career, and she talked about how humbling it is to be a part of the show and how well it fits with her values, especially the importance of craftsmanship and restoration. In addition to filming, Susie went on a book tour after her first biography came out earlier that year. The biography is mostly about her time living in America. She was going through what she called a wildly but remained grounded by her craft. As she looked ahead, Susie said that she took a break from filming last year because she wanted to start a bunch of fun projects like designing and making coats and luggage out of recycled materials and recreating patterns from old newspapers. She has a lot of casemakers' workbooks that she's collected over the years. She's also working on new saddle designs and plans to go back to America soon. It goes without saying that Susie has done amazingly well on the show and has made a lot of money as a result. As of 2024, Susie is thought to be worth between $1 million and $2 million. $2 million, which is a good amount of money for a restorer like Susie. Her total net worth comes from her time working as a freelance horsemaker and restorer in the US and from her time on the show now. This shows how long she has been working and how much she loves what she does.